The governments of Venezuela and Colombia signed a memorandum of understanding for the creation of a zone by national development. Cuban National Assembly members debate the country's energy recovery and mechanisms in place to guarantee people's power. In Palestine, an Israeli strike on the Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza City killed 2 people and injured 6 others. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The governments of Venezuela and Colombia signed a memorandum of understanding which will lay the foundations for the creation of the Zone of Peace, Union and Binational Development proposed by President Nicolás Maduro at a meeting in Caracas with Colombian representatives. Venezuelan Vice President Rodriguez praised the decisions of the head of state and his Colombian counterpart, Gustavo Petro, who have promoted policies that support border communities, economic and trade initiatives, and security for both nations. Rodriguez also assured that this memorandum will allow for the development of these economic zones, following the roadmap to realize Bolivar's dream of unity. In this regard, she highlighted that strategic areas such as industry, tourism, transportation and currency exchange operations at the border are part of the productive sectors of both nations, which will benefit from joint efforts.
This has been an agreement between President Gustavo Petro and President Nicolás Maduro, who have thought about the people of our border towns, in the towns in northern Santander, in the towns in Táchira State, and in Zulia State. It is for the benefit of our people. It is a more sustainable policy since President Gustavo Petro took office with the opening of the border, how trade between Colombia and Venezuela has been promoted, and today we are taking a historical and strategic step by laying the foundations with this memorandum of understanding for the creation of a binational peace zone, a zone of union, a zone of integration of economic and social development in different areas and sectors in trade and industry.
In Venezuela, a flight arrived in the country from the United States with a stopover in Honduras with more than 180 nationals on board as part of the government's return to the homeland plan. The Simón Bolívar International Airport received flight number 44 of the government plan promoted to guarantee the safe return of Venezuelans abroad. The reception of 186 returnees and 167 men and 19 women was in charge of officials from various citizen security agencies. Since the resumption of the return to the homeland plan, over 7,000 migrants have returned to the country, reaffirming the commitment of the national government to support Venezuelans who are the object of persecution policies by the government of the United States. In the United States, a series of polls conducted by Quinnipiac University revealed that 57% of voters disapprove current President Donald Trump's immigration policies, while only 40% support them. After having taken office, one of Trump's main decisions was to pass a budget bill that would turn Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, into the country's largest security agency. However, one of the surveys unfolded that 57% of voters disapproved of ICE's performance, while another poll showed that 64% of voters opposed the deportation of undocumented immigrants to countries other than their own. This change in public perception coincides with a poll conducted last month by Gallup, which reflected a more positive attitude on the U.S. population towards immigration.
So they will sweep this multiple times to make sure there's nothing in the use as weapons.
The Russian government handed over 1,000 bodies of soldiers of the Ukrainian armed forces to Kyiv on Thursday. The exchange was conducted following the deals reached during the past negotiations between the two countries in Istanbul. Meanwhile, the Russian side pointed out that they received from Ukraine 19 bodies of Russian servicemen killed in action. Moscow and Kyiv agreed during their last round of talks on a swap of seriously ill and wounded war prisoners or those younger than 25, as well as on the exchange of the bodies of their fallen servicemen. In Iraq, a fire in a 5-story shopping center in the city of Al-Qud left more than 60 dead and several missing. According to Iraqi media, authorities have confirmed 63 deaths and 40 injuries due to the incident, which took place between the night of July 16th and the early morning of July 17th. In this regard, Wasit Province Governor Mohammed Al-Majahi informed that the victims included men, women and children, and stated that the cause of the fire was not immediately known. For their part, survivors have stated that the blaze started after an air conditioner unit exploded. An official investigation has been opened for answers, in addition to lawsuits filed against the owner of the building and the shopping center. According to the National Disaster Management Authority, at least 124 people have died and 264 others have been injured in Pakistan due to torrential monsoon rains and related incidents. Authorities said the casualties were recorded between June 26th and July 16th, with 8 new deaths and 11 injuries reported in the last 24 hours. The eastern Punjab province is the worst affected, with 49 fatalities and 158 injuries. No casualties were recorded in northern Gilgit-Baltistan and the Islamabad capital territory. Authorities have issued advisory and are working with provincial governorates to coordinate relief and rescue efforts in the most affected regions. In South Korea, at least 4 people died due to torrential rains in the south-central part of the country. According to Gyeonggi provincial firefighters, one of the victims was buried by a landslide in Osan City. The National Meteorological Administration reported that in the coastal city of Seosan, southern Chungcheong province, over 400 millimeters of water have been recorded in the early hours of Wednesday to Thursday, causing rivers to overflow and the evacuation of hundreds of residents. The Bolivian government registered an estimated 1,500 hotspots and 13 fires in 6 municipalities of Santa Cruz de la Sierra. The Bolivian Ministry of Environment and Water noted that several teams of the armed forces have been deployed in rescue areas of fires to take precautionary measures. Meanwhile, the plurinational state activated the 2025 firefighting plan in defense of life and the environment. In this regard, authorities detailed that the firefighting plan was a comprehensive strategy for preventing, controlling and restoring localities hit by fire. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Cuban National Assembly members debate the country's energy recovery and mechanisms in place to guarantee people's power. During the second day of debates, as part of the Assembly's 5th regular session, ministers assessed the progress of the government's program for the recovery of the national power system. In addition, as part of the economic strategies approved, Prime Minister Manuel Marrero announced the transformation of the official exchange market to begin in the second half of the year. The move will include a comprehensive update of the current exchange rate system. The debate sessions and measures seek to revitalize the economy amid the ongoing U.S. blockade, while defending the achievements of the revolution and reinforcing Cuba's sovereignty. In a plenary session of Parliament, the Cuban government approved an increasing age, disability and unified pensions starting in September. Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz explained that for the moment, comprehensive reform cannot be undertaken, given that they do not have the financial resources due to the blockade imposed by the United States. However, he assured that work is being done to find proposals and solutions. In this regard, he announced that actions will be implemented that will constitute sources to compensate for the demand for increased spending in the Social Security budget. The government of Cuba denounces that the United States is allocating millions of dollars in funding to promote subversion and destabilize the country while cutting funds intended to serve the U.S. people. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez described those attempting to promote a $75 million budget to finance subversion on the island in the United States as anti-Cuban politicians. Rodriguez condemned this action against Cuba as the U.S. Congress approves cuts to domestic public services. The criticisms comes amid a new wave of bilateral tensions after the Cuban parliament rejected a memorandum from the Trump administration that reinforces the economic blockade and prohibits U.S. tourism to Cuba.
What has been discussed reflects foreign policy priorities, and the fundamental priorities are related to preserving independence and defending the revolution and socialism that our people have established in exercising their self-determination as a model and constitutional order in the face of growing aggression from the U.S. government. Secondly, the search for new options that will enable us to accelerate the recovery of our economy, move towards development, and try to resolve the fundamental problems that today cause suffering, difficulties, shortages, and deprivation for Cuban families, mainly due to the blockade and Cuba's presence on the infamous lists of countries allegedly sponsoring terrorism. Thus, a very important priority of foreign policy is precisely the search for options for exports, imports, investments, financial relations, and international cooperation in the development of our country's external economy.
In other topics, in Argentina, retirees were repressed by the police with gases in front of the Congress while they demanded the Javier Milei government to improve their right to a fair retirement. The congregants, together with different political and social fronts, returned to demand the reinstatement of their salaries and the restitution of the medicines. However, the Ministry of Security deployed a huge operation that included hundreds of prefecture, gendarmeries, federal police, and the airport security police. During the repression, a man on crutches was injured, generating strong indignation among the demonstrators. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa confirmed that the country is experiencing an internal armed conflict as a result of the ignorance of the violence crisis. Through a decree, the executive recognized the conflict caused by organized armed groups in the country. In addition, the document mentions that these groups are identified in an intelligence report classified as secret. In the decree, President Noboa ordered the National Intelligence Center to periodically update the list of criminals involved in the internal armed conflict. And in Honduras, the Liberal Party accepted the resignation of electoral councillor Ana Paola Hall after internal differences. The president of the Central Executive Council of the Liberal Party, Roberto Contreras, assured that Hall's declaration did not represent the position of the Liberal bench, for which reason he formally demanded her definite and immediate resignation. The leader said that in the next few days, A new councillor will be appointed to fill the position in the National Electoral Council in what seems to be an attempt to align all the voices of the party under the same direction. Ana Paola Hall said she was sure that taking the easy road of breaking the law would only lead to a scenario where there would be no electoral process. The presidential candidate for the 2025 general elections for the Libre Party, Rixi Moncada, declared regarding the resignation of electoral councillor Ana Paola Hall that her acts were illegal.
La razón y la legalidad,
reason and legality, and also truth as a principle up to this moment. I don't know where the forces will lead from these historical events. I don't know where they will lead. We must be attentive to the trigger. Each one will have its own conclusion. The acts of the National Electoral Committee denounced are totally illegal acts, and that is why they were denounced.
In this context, National Electoral Committee advisor Marlon Ochoa warned of a potential plot to commit fraud.
Just as it happened in the electoral frauds of 213 and 217 with the rural votes and the Batson curve, today, again, from the electoral body itself, new fraud is being planned. They want a group of people from Tegucigalpa to decide which votes are added and which are not. We, as representatives of those who are victims of the Batson frauds, do not accept this human interference, and we demand that this be corrected.
And we have a second show break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Palestine, an Israeli strike on the Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza City killed 2 people and injured 6 others. Among the wounded is Father Gabriel Romanelli, who used to regularly update late Pope Francis on the situation in the Palestinian enclave. The Holy Family Church is only Catholic church in the Strip, sheltering both Christians and Muslims, among them several children with disabilities. In this regard, through a statement, the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned the strike as a full-fledged crime. The ministry denounced Tel Aviv's deliberate attacks on places of worship, hospitals, schools and shelters, which have been repeatedly targeted by the Zionist regime since October 2023. In the latest hours, medical sources reported that Israeli swarm drones had hit to death at least 22 Palestinians in northern Gaza. Health authorities detailed that among the fatal victims were 8 people in charge of ensuring some 20 trucks of humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, the Wafa agency informed that in northern Habalia city, Israeli jet fighters targeted a house, killing an entire family, father, mother, and their 5 children. The Zionist genocidal campaign against the Gaza Strip has been active for over 21 months, bringing about an unprecedented humanitarian crisis and a tremendous destruction across the enclave. On Wednesday, 35 sick and wounded children arrived in Jordan from the Gaza Strip to receive medical treatment in the 7th group of the 2 million children to receive medical assistance. The evacuation procedure was carried out in collaboration with the Ministry of Health of Jordan and the World Health Organization. The children, who were accompanied by 72 family members, were hospitalized in Amman, where they will be treated by expert medical teams. The Jordanian authorities said that this is the largest group transported in a single operation. Since the start of the Jordanian initiative in March, a total of 112 children have been transported with 241 family members to treat injuries or conditions caused by the Israeli siege. International Criminal Court judges dismissed applications to quash arrest warrants issued against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip. The warrants were issued after he and his former Minister of Military Affairs, Yoav Gallant, were found to have contributed to initiating, prolonging or escalating the Israeli regime's genocidal offensive in Gaza since October 2023, a military campaign that has so far left more than 58,000 Palestinians dead, mostly women and children. According to the judges, the arrest warrants remains in effect while the court continues to evaluate the objections raised by the Israeli regime regarding its jurisdiction in the case. Syrian army troops began withdrawing from Suwaida on Wednesday after the de facto government and the Druze community reached a ceasefire in the province. Precisely, the exit follows the announcement by the Interior Ministry of a total truce agreed after 4 days of clashes and growing security tensions in the southern Syrian city. Fighting between the de facto government forces and Druze armed groups have left more than 240 dead in the region. At the same time, on Wednesday, Israeli aircraft bombed the entrance to the General Staff headquarters in Damascus, the area around the presidential palace, and government military vehicles in Suwaida. In this regard, the de facto ruler Ahmed al-Sharaa condemned Israel for the strikes, stating it was pushing matters to a large-scale escalation. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.